So it is finally time to discuss the first matchup of the season for the Packers. It has been a very, very long offseason. We are finally here, and it is very exciting to be filming the first preview/prediction video. And this game is going to be very interesting on many different fronts because this is a Packers team, new-look Packers team with Jordan Love. We all want to know, can he play well in the regular season? Can he be the guy for Green Bay? Then on the other hand, you have the Chicago Bears, who were the worst team in the NFL last season, ended up trading away the number one pick, get some draft capital, get Justin Fields, a weapon in DJ Moore, and there's no doubt they're a much better team when it comes to the additions they made on their roster. But the question is, with Rodgers gone, can the Bears start to make some headway and potentially, sort of fix the issues they've had here facing off against Green Bay for years and years? Because since 2013, the Bears are 3-17. So clearly, the Bears are hoping that this can be, the switch where they come in here and they start to actually win some games. I honestly don't think that's going to be the case. But let's get into this matchup and discuss, all the biggest important things to keep an eye on coming into this game on Sunday. If you guys are new here, I put out Packers content pretty much every single day. Lots of times, multiple times a day. So feel free to stay tuned if you want to, see news, updates, all that kind of stuff. Feel free to subscribe. So I want to start off with the Packers offense versus this Bears defense. Of course, biggest thing, Jordan Love. How is he going to play? Can he continue, I think, the success that he had in this preseason where he was calm in the pocket, poised, making the nice reads, hitting Christian Watson, hitting Romeo Doubs, who hopefully will be healthy week one. This is his first real test. And so if we look at this Bears defense, they were absolutely atrocious last season. 32nd in the NFL. Do I think they're going to be as bad this year? No. The reason being that they did make a lot of additions on this defense to try to fix lots of the issues they had last year. Some of the biggest moves, they signed middle linebacker TJ Edwards from the Eagles, who last year had the 6th best linebacker grade in the NFL. They also added Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills, who had the 5th best linebacker grade last year. So 2 middle linebackers, and that is going to greatly help this Bears run defense filling those holes. And so they're definitely better in that area. They also added some pass rushers, adding DeMarcus Walker, who was the 24th ranked edge rusher per PFF, and then Yannick Ngakoue as well, who actually, if you just look at grade, 108th last year, very poor against the run. But he does still get to the quarterback. I think he had about 12 sacks last season. So there's lots of additions here. You also throw in the addition of second-round corner Tyrique Stevenson, who, from what I've read, Bears, if you're a Bears fan, correct me, but it seems like he will likely be starting on the outside. I know Kyler Gordon did it last year, but it looks like he will be moving to the slot. As I said, Bears fans, please correct me, but that's what I believe I read recently. They do have a very good safety core in Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker. There is some questions as to whether or not Brisker will play this Sunday because he has been dealing with some kind of injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But I do think when you look at this defense, I do think one of the exploitable areas is going to be some of these corners here on the Bears defense. Jalen Johnson had the 55th coverage grade last year per PFF. Kyler Gordon had the 116th ranked coverage grade per PFF. And then the second rounder, Tyrique Stevenson, he has yet to play an NFL game. So I think these are some guys that these Packers receivers are going to be able to get open against, and I think that Jordan Love is not going to have a terrible time against this Bears passing defense, or passing the secondary, basically. As I said, though, this is a very good safety room, so definitely need to keep an eye on those safeties flying around the field. But I think when it comes to Jordan Love and when it comes to his first game, this is a pretty nice matchup for him. It's not like the Bears have some kind of elite passing defense. At least I don't think they do. And so I think for his first game of the season, it's not a terrible matchup. I think when you look at this Packers offense, they definitely want to be able to focus on the run this year. They want to be able to feed Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. We look at last year, the Packers were 11th in yards per rush attempt in 2022. And with Aaron Rodgers gone, with Jordan Love taking over, I think there's no doubt that Matt LaFleur wants this to be a team that can really, really run the ball. Last year, the Bears had one of the worst running defenses in the NFL. And even though they have made some additions here, a guy they added was Andrew Billings on the interior, who was actually pretty good last year, 16th ranked per PFF on the defensive line. I do think the Packers are going to be able to run the ball against this Bears defense. The Packers still have, I think, one of the best backfields in the NFL, one of the better offensive lines in the NFL as well. So I think the Packers are going to try to run the ball a ton, do play action off of that. And I am excited to see these Packers weapons because we've been talking about it the entire offseason. The amount of speed the Packers have, it's sort of unlike they've had maybe in a long, long time, with Luke Musgrave at tight end, 6'6", 4.61 speed. Christian Watson, 4.36 speed. Jaden Reed on the slot, 4.37 speed. I think these guys are going to be able to get open this game. And then the final thing to look at is, of course, protecting Jordan Love, which is, I think, the biggest thing in any game. Looking at the trenches there is, can your offensive line hold up to allow the QB to pick the defense apart? And I think that when we look at the Packers' offensive line, last year, third best by, when you look at PFF, pass blocking grade, and there's really no changes there from the starting line last year. I think that we're much healthier to start this season than we were last season. If you look at, Bakhtiari at left tackle should be good to go. Elton Jenkins left guard, Josh Myers center, Runyon Jr. right guard, and Zach Tom, who has played really well in training camp at right tackle. This is going to be a very stacked Packers offensive line, and we saw in the preseason just how good they were. Barely allowed any pressures. I don't even know if they allowed a hit against Jordan Love in the 8 series he was playing in. So I don't think the Bears are going to be constantly, breaking down this pocket. And if they even are, we saw in the last preseason game what Jordan Love can do with his feet. He can escape the pocket. So even if the Bears were able to get some pressure here, which, in an entire game, of course, there's going to be some downs where the Bears probably get some pressure. The question is, can we just not allow consistent pressure, which, when you look at this offensive line, I do think the Packers O-line is going to be able to handle business here. So I'm not too worried about the Packers offense. The question, of course, is Jordan Love, and I'm excited to see finally in a full game what he can do. Because in preseason, you get, 2-3 series. Tomorrow we'll get, 8, 9, 10, depending on how many drives the Packers have. So it's really going to be a game where we maybe get a lot of answers in week 1 because, as they say, until you really come into the season, you don't really know what you have. Sure, you can ball out in the preseason, which you want to see, and you can take some positives away from that. But until you come in and really get it done in an actual game, that's when it counts. And so we'll have a lot more answers after this game for the Packers offense. Now flipping to the other side of the ball, this Bears offense versus the Packers defense. Similar to the Packers with the uncertainty of Jordan Love, I would say there's a similar uncertainty with Justin Fields. He is now entering his 3rd season. We saw last year how good of a runner he is. Definitely one of the best in the league when it comes to running the ball at quarterback, maybe the best. He had one of the best quarterback rushing seasons of all time. The thing for him he needs to work on is his passing. Was one of the worst passers last year in the NFL. He didn't have much help when it came to receiver core. His offensive line was pretty weak, even though I do think that lots of the sacks that he had were due to him holding the ball a very long time. But the Bears this offseason, just like they made some additions on defense, they did it on offense. Of course, the biggest one, bring in DJ Moore to be a legit weapon for Justin Fields. They also greatly improved their offensive line, although there have been lots of injuries throughout lots of training camp. From what I've been reading, tons of the different offensive linemen have been injured, so there hasn't really been a lot of time for them to consistently play together when everyone's been healthy. Tevin Jenkins, one of their guards, is on the IR, a guy who was slated to start. But they do have solid tackles, and Braxton Jones at left tackle played really well last year. And then right tackle, Darnell Wright, who was drafted 10th overall. So they've got some studs on the outside. And so I do think this is a better offensive line for the Bears than last year. There are some injuries, as I said. So there may be some weak points on this line the Packers can take advantage of. And I've been talking about this Packers defensive line this offseason a lot because I do think there's a great likelihood that this is a much better defensive line than the Packers have had in a while. Just with Devontae Wyatt entering his 2nd year, going to be getting a lot more snaps. With TJ Slaton taking up that nose tackle role, Kenny Clark sort of move into defensive end. There could be more opportunity for Kenny Clark to have one-on-one matchups with TJ Slaton taking up the middle there. And so with those additions, with JJ Enagbare coming into his 2nd year at edge rusher, with Lucas Van Ness also able to be utilized both inside and outside, this is going to be a fun defensive line unit to watch this year, especially when it comes to rushing the passer. The one area where I'm still slightly concerned for the Packers, just because it's been a concern for a very long time, is this run defense, who, if we look at last year, one of the worst in the league, 26th in rush yards allowed per game, 31st in the league, and if you look at rush EPA per play allowed for the Packers defense. And so this has been a common theme for the Packers for, it seems like forever, as long as I can remember, for years and years, where the running defense just struggles consistently. We've had many playoff games end with getting completely torn up on the ground. And so hopefully the Packers' run defense can fix some of those issues going into this season. I'm not going to be sold on that until we see it happen. But this week 1 game for this Packers run defense is going to be a big test because the Bears were dominant in the run last year. The pass, a different story, which I think we'll touch on in a second. But last year, if you look at rushing, the Bears had the most rushing yards per game in the entire NFL at 177 yards per game. You look at their top running back in Khalil Herbert. He had 5.7 yards per attempt last season. Justin Fields, of course, ran for 1,100 yards. And so the Packers are going to need to stop the run, first of all. And I would not be shocked if the Bears' plan is, okay, let's just try to torch them on the ground. Let's try to gouge them on the ground because they haven't showed it in the past. So let's test and see if they have that ability. And if the Packers aren't able to do that, it could be a long game for this defense. So hopefully the Packers defense can do that. Hopefully Quay Walker can become a better tackler and a better, I guess more so better against the run, because he was one of the worst last year if you look at running grades per PFF. And so let's hope that he can take that second-year jump. And let's hope this defensive line can, fill those gaps and stop the run, because this is a very good running team. And if we can hold them up in the running game, I do think this is a secondary that is going to be able to get a couple interceptions on Justin Fields, who has not proven up to this point that he can be a legit passer consistently in the NFL. If we look at the 2 games last season where the Bears played the Packers, game 1, the Packers beat them 27-10. Justin Fields, 7 for 11, 70 yards, 8 carries, 20 yards. He was much more productive in the second game. Packers still won 28-19. Fields went 20 of 25, 254 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 6 carries for 71 yards. So far, if you look at last season, no touchdown passes against the Packers defense. And I think that this Packers secondary, at least the corner room, is a strength with Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, Keyshawn Nixon. There is a concern with this safety room with Darnell Savage, Rudy Ford. Can they hold up there? It's definitely been one of the question marks for this defense. And so it's going to be a better Bears offense, I believe, with some improved offensive linemen here, with a solid backfield. They also have Roschon Johnson, who was a running back for Texas last year, who should be really good. They have DJ Moore. Of course, if we throw in the Packers players who are now here in Chicago with Mercedes Lewis, who is one of the better run-blocking tight ends. Robert Tonyan can also do that. So it's going to be a fun game, no doubt. But I do think that if we look at this game, it is in Chicago. I'm pretty sure if you look at the sports, the lines overall, the Bears seem to be favored by 1 point. So the people making those kind of decisions, making the lines, do think it's going to be a very, very close game. But I think the Packers are going to pull this game out. I think the Packers are going to be able to run the ball. I think the Packers are going to be able to take advantage of this Bears secondary. I think that Jordan Love is going to have a solid game. And I believe that even if the Bears offense is able to run the ball pretty well, which I assume they will because they have a very solid offense when it comes to running the ball, as we discussed, I think the Packers will be able to take advantage of Justin Fields in the passing game. I'm just not sold on him becoming that next, a solid passer. Can he? It's possible, but I just don't think that he's going to do it, especially in this first game. So I'm going to give the Packers a win. I'm going to say Packers win this game 24-20. I think it's going to be a close one, especially with it being in Chicago, but I think the Packers are going to pull this one out and find a way to win it in Jordan Love's first game of the entire season. So let me know your thoughts down below, your score prediction. I will be out with more content throughout the week, so feel free to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all Packers content. But that is all I have for this one, and I'll see you guys next time.